let's cover this. And I don't blame Roman for this at all. Roman is adorable. I heart you, Roman. It's not your fault. You do a great job.
How would you respond to that sort of criticism where some of the institutional knowledge might be lost in this transition process?
It's a good question. So what people need to remember is that you have 2.2 million full-time non-military federal employees. You have between 16 million and 20 million federal contractors. And traditionally, only between 3,000 and 4,000 people work for the president. Those are the political appointees who can be hired and fired by the president. And we need more political appointees. We need more who come from outside Washington, D.C. With respect to the number that you mentioned, you know, what the vision is of Project 2025, and you see various presidential candidates talking about this as well, is that for those federal employees who hold policy-making positions, those positions should be
bound to the will of the legislature. If that's not what he's about to say, I'm telling you right now, if that's not what he's about to say, he is blowing smoke up your ass, all right? I'm telling you.
Be reportable to the president. We're not necessarily planning to...
That's what we have currently. They need to be reportable. That's what's happening right now. Mayorkas doesn't listen to the legislature, despite them creating, you know, the agencies that are supposed to take care of the border and everything. They write the laws. Mayorkas is supposed to follow and execute the laws. Mayorkas is not supposed to just do what the president wants. That's what we have right now. This is so infuriating. I mean, this is the Heritage Foundation, guys. Ideas, yeah. This is the Heritage Foundation.
Planning to get rid of one person. What this is to reassert political control of the bureaucracy. And the president is entitled to a support.
That is not what we should do. Do you guys see the issue here? You don't just... we need to address the political bureaucracy. We need to bind them to the will of the legislature. This is the Heritage Foundation saying we need to take the power away from them. They shouldn't have that magic power. We should have that magic power. What the fuck?
Staff. The president is the commander-in-chief. He's the chief executive officer, and the executive branch should be working to implement the president's vision. So,
Is that so? Is that so? All right. Well, I suppose we should just review for the Heritage Foundation the different branches of government. So the Heritage Foundation takes the position that the executive branch should be enacting the vision of the president. But let's see what House.gov says about these branches. You know, the executive branch is only one of 3 branches of government. Heritage Foundation, are you listening? Let's go over the first one, legislative branch. The legislative branch is made up of the House and Senate, known collectively as the Congress. Among other powers, the legislative branch makes all laws, declares war, regulates interstate and foreign commerce, and controls taxing and spending policies. Remember this part. Makes all laws. In 1 second, you're gonna see why that's relevant. Because the executive branch's true role consists of the executive branch consists of the president, his or her advisors, and various departments and agencies. This branch is responsible for enforcing the laws of the land. This branch is responsible for enforcing the laws of the land. Makes all law. Legislative branch makes all laws, not the president. The president. Wait a second, though. But I thought I heard the Heritage Foundation say that the executive branch should be enacting the will and the vision of the president. Okay, but this says, wait, hang on, back up. This says that the executive branch is responsible for enforcing the laws of the land, and that the legislative branch is who makes the laws of the land. But the president's not in the legislative branch. Wait, hang on. Stay with me, guys. The president's in the executive branch. think about this one. Let's think about this one. How does that compare with what the Heritage Foundation is pushing on our presidential candidates? Let's just see if we heard that right. Maybe we heard that wrong.
The president is the commander-in-chief. He's the chief executive officer, and the executive branch should be working to implement the president's vision. So that's what...
Absolutely not. This is why it gets frustrating sometimes. This is the Heritage Foundation who should know better than what they're doing. How are you going to... What? First of all, when did you guys start talking about the administrative state? Because my report's been out for a minute now. And yeah, I mean, people know about the administrative state, sure. But like, anyways, how are you going to talk about the administrative state and you're going to mess it up? The first pillar of the administrative state is non-delegation and the non-delegation doctrine. The fix must necessarily be in the legislature. You can't replace Democrat unelected bureaucrats that are wild with unchecked power with your unelected bureaucrats that will still maintain wild and unchecked power. That ain't it. That ain't the fix. Please read my report. The deep state is real. It's at takingbacktexas.com. Heritage Foundation, please. And you know what? I have heard presidential candidates talking about this and getting it wrong. So I know exactly where they're getting it from now. I know where Vivek Ramaswamy got it from now. When he was talking about the administrative state, I was so hopeful listening to him speak. And then he messed it all up. Saying the same type of thing. We just need to take back this control. It's like saying the Democrats shouldn't have unchecked power. We should. We should have. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and I hope you all do know this is the first pillar of the administrative state, which is non-delegation. You're also, you know what else you're not talking about? Judicial deference. You ain't talking about that either. Y'all skipped at the Heritage Foundation. Y'all skipped straight to executive control of agencies. Y'all want that power. But you shouldn't have it. The fix is in the legislature. And sorry about that, you guys. Oh my goodness. Give me 1 second. And the executive branch is not there to enact the vision of the president. The executive branch is there to execute, to enforce the laws of the land, which are written by the legislature in adherence with the national and state constitutions. So this ain't it, buddy. Heritage Foundation, this ain't it. I'm gonna and I hope you know what I mean by that. I mean, of course you're not going to talk about judicial deference. Your bar attorneys make a killing off us not knowing what the hell to do. Y'all know how these y'all look, please. Can y'all hear me? Please.
The committee.
Y'all give me a 5x5 if you can hear me right now. Over on the Pilled chat. Let me go and see. Did it load on Pilled? I don't know if it did. Big bad black conservative. Yep. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a late start. You know, I have a weird issue with my computer. It's like set to the wrong time. And we all know how important that is, right, Hyder? How important it is to have things set to the right time. Having your machine set to the right time. Well, I know that we've covered how important that is, Hyder. Anyways. Thank you everybody for joining. That was just a little recap of, and I don't dislike the Heritage Foundation. I really like the Heritage Foundation, actually. That was just a little recap of, so there's a couple of things, a couple of ways to deal with the administrative state. The administrative state, that's kind of what my work has become all about, is the administrative state. I didn't expect that. I thought maybe we could go in there and just clean up the elections. There was something wrong with them. All these people were allowed to cheat because there were some rules that we need to clean up. Yeah, that's basically it. But there's like a lot more to it, right? So there's a whole like administration there, a whole administrative state, the deep state. And I write about it all the time. Heritage Foundation has their own way of dealing with it, and this is not it.
The committee will come to order.
Anyway, the Heritage Foundation's idea of dealing with the deep state is actually just to like replace all of the deep state people with their people. All of the bad people in the deep state that are wielding unchecked power, just replace them. My idea, which I mean, yeah, if you get good people in there, then obviously they were probably less likely to abuse the power that they've been accidentally or deliberately delegated. We need to take that back. We cannot delegate that much authority to that much rulemaking authority to the executive branch, right? So I write about how I think we should deal with it, and then that's how I just showed a clip of how the Heritage Foundation thinks that they should deal with it. And I just disagree basically with them on that point. But I really like the Heritage Foundation. Let me turn this thing off. I really like the Heritage Foundation, honestly. I don't have anything against them. I just disagree with how we should deal with the administrative deep state. I think we should take their power away totally. So that's what my legislation does. It says they're not allowed to make rules anymore. Anything that they want to implement or that they think should be implemented, they have to pass through the state legislature. They got to take that and it's got to go make it into a bill. You know how we do. I'm just a bill, you know. You remember Schoolhouse Rock? So basically, I just wanted to show that clip to show the difference in how some people think that we should deal with what's happening, the people who are actually running the country in the shadows versus how I think we should deal with them. I think probably both of them are important. We need to not only take their power away, but we also need good people in those positions. Because even if you take their power away, you know, bad people still break laws, right? We know that. So look, I'm not saying anything bad about the Heritage Foundation, even though I sounded pretty PO'd in that video. It's because I've been working so hard documenting the effects of the deep state and the laws that have allowed them to do what they're doing. Trying to get that out there. Now I'm one person, so I have a hard time, and I'm trying to cover a lot of ground. I'm documenting a lot of stuff. I'm doing a lot of stuff, but it's hard for one person to do a whole lot, right? That's why I needed some of y'all's help. So I have some really good volunteers that without some of these people, we wouldn't be where we're at. So thank you guys to all the volunteers. You guys are awesome. So Big Bad Black Conservative, am I going to see you at the state convention? Are you a delegate? And if so, did you go to your Senate district convention? So our Senate district convention went really well. I still do not have the link for all of the resolutions that we passed. It should be on a certain website, but I'm not really allowed to show that website. It's a private website that some of the local people use. I don't know. I can't really give access to it. I don't even know if my access works because I'm not a precinct chair. So only precinct chairs, get certain access to certain websites. But we'll have the link sometime soon, and we'll go over all of the resolutions. We have a really short amount of time, though. We don't have a whole lot of time to get ready, guys. We actually have to start looking through those resolutions and see which ones you really like and which ones you want to fight for, okay? If any of you guys are watching are going to be state delegates, we will need your help. We'll be talking a little bit more about the resolutions if we have time. I'm trying to do a lot. There's a lot going on, so I'm trying to get a lot of it covered. All right. As you guys might know, there's a recount in Dallas County. I'm going to be helping observe the recount just to see what's going on down there. The candidate that's doing the recount, he's, he didn't lose by a whole lot, comparatively, but he's really not going down there just to totally, challenge everything. He's really trying to see what he can learn about the process that's in place. And he does want to make sure the totals are right too. So that's obviously part of it, right? You want to make sure the totals were accurately reported, but there's a lot more that he can learn as well. So he's affording this recount. He really wants to do it. It's Barry Wernick. He's really interested in learning more. So it's cool. It's not everybody that chooses to afford a recount, even though they're a part of this movement still. At the end of your campaign, the candidates get to keep all of the money that was donated to them. They get to keep it. At least in Texas, they do. So it's not very many of them that have money left over, and that there's even less of them that have money left over and that are
willing to spend whatever it is on a recount because it's expensive. Do you know that it's more expensive to do a recount in counties that have computerized voting systems than it is in counties with paper ballots? Yep. Counties with paper ballots, it's $60 per precinct to do a recount. Counties with computerized election systems, it is $100 per precinct. Does that sound like some sort of form of like de-incentive? What's the word? What's that? When you remove the incentive? You know what I mean? Or make more it's like throwing another obstacle up in front of the person, like make it more difficult. Have How do I explain this? They're making it more expensive for the computerized elections to do a recount. And it's like disincentivizing a recount. It's like making people think, nah, screw it. Whatever then. I won't do it. It's too expensive. You know what I mean? Oh, and here's the thing. It's not like you can just pick certain precincts because we don't vote in precinct anymore. You're going to need every single one of those polling locations. So it's going to be $100 for every polling location because we're not voting in precinct, guys. And what they'll do, like what I've heard has already happened, is the county, when I say they, usually I'm talking about the county. Let me clarify. Right now I'm talking about county elections. What county elections will do is they will pull out all of the boxes that they say from the locations that they say, these are all the places where people cast a ballot for you. So you can recount all those and make sure it's right. And the way that they know that is from a digital printout. They'll go and say, oh, let's go and find all the places where his voters cast a ballot for him. Okay. Well, I would just recommend still saying, look, I want to go through every box and make sure there's not other ballots in there that could have been for me. You know what I mean? I would say it's worth it to be totally thorough, to count every single polling location if your county is doing polling, countywide voting. Even if the county is willing to pull out all the boxes and just tell you, don't worry about all of these. These are all the boxes with your votes. Don't worry about those. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, not that I'm saying there's all those ballots, all your extra ballots are in those boxes. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that for to be thorough, right? We should want to be thorough, right? But we're going to document this recount. There's another recount happening. There's, in Tarrant County, there's some recounts happening. And we're going to document as much as we can about them so that we can tell you guys, what's happening. The interesting thing about these recounts, they are Republican Party primary recounts. And the Republican Party has total control over the primaries, including all the recounts, the way that they're conducted, all of that stuff. So it's interesting. This is what we needed our executive committees to sort of come together on and decide how they're going to do these things, how we're going to run a paper ballot election. Okay. Or how we're going to take the machines that we have and bind them to existing law, because it's possible. I know it's possible because myself and a couple of other big brains have thought about this, and we mapped it out, and we're like, this is really simple. It's not even difficult. Like, it's simple. All of y'all will agree, and you'll understand it too. Like, it just takes a while to get to where you have all of the components so you can say, okay, this is what we should do. But all of y'all, like regular people, would understand what we did, because we're regular people too. We're like, no, we don't need this to be so overcomplicated that we need to keep checking all of our notes. I want this such a simple process. I can remember it when I leave. In 30 minutes, I can remember it. I can explain to the next person, this is how our voting system works, right? So we have a really simple way to bind it to existing law, and we can still use the machines until we outlaw them. But until we outlaw them, those machines are probably still going to be used. So there's a way that you can format them in the meantime to make them adhere to law. It's the best we can do until we can totally outlaw them. But we do need a strong structure of replacement, a strong modern structure to replace the computerized voting systems. All right. So I wanted to talk about just a few things, basically. Hang on. What's this? Hang on. My stuff is not working very well. I just wanted to hang on. Is this even working? I know that I'm streaming on a few. I'm trying to make sure if I'm streaming on. Yeah. Okay. That is working. Good. we need to change the laws in order to be able to win in any court case. I know that y'all know that. Y'all have probably been watching for a while. You understand that in order to get things taken care of, the legislature is what sets it in stone. It's difficult to win any court case when you don't have strong laws to stand on. Okay. So the issue is this: when it comes to the election stuff, okay, this is what I want people to understand. It's really not that our sheriffs and our DAs are all bad. Some of them are, but not all of them. Here's how it really is. When we take them issues that we find and we say, hey, this process is in place and it's in violation of this, and this, the sheriff and the DA have to then sit there and say, okay, so we've been brought this issue and they're giving us this law. It looks like a violation. Sheriff takes it to the DA. DA says, okay, well, what does your complete investigation say? Sheriff says, well, looks like a violation to me. But then we called the Secretary of State, who we were directed to call. They told us, don't worry about that. That's not a violation. We've authorized it. So here now is the sheriff saying it looks like a violation, but the Secretary of State said that they've authorized it. The DA says, okay, what law is the Secretary of State citing that's saying that they can authorize that? Secretary of State pulls a law that says, here's a chapter, here's a section of a chapter, and the SOS can create rules to implement this chapter. So now the DA and the sheriff are sitting there trying to figure out if this little piece of non-delegation saying that the Secretary of State can create rules to implement this chapter also gives the Secretary of State the authority to amend code outside of that chapter in order to implement the rules that they want to implement for that chapter. Does that piece of non-delegation say that they can waive all election law in order to implement that chapter? And then the DA has to decide, do they have enough of a case that they can take to a judge? The DA is not going to take a case that they're not sure that they'll win. They're not going to take a case they're unsure of. They want to take cases to the judge that they know they're going to win. If the law is in a gray area here, saying, well, here's the law, here's another law, here's another law, and in order to implement this law, the Secretary of State can create rules. Okay, that's literally all it says. I could give you examples, and we really should. One night I'll pull all of them up and I'll show you all of the state statutes that we're amending that defer to the SOS. We read them the other night. You got a little bit of it the other night, and I swear I'm going to paint it on my wall. That last provision that was at the end of every single one of the resolutions, the resolution points that Dr. Dana Myers, the Republican Party of Texas vice chair, every one of her resolutions at the end put up there that this cannot be waived by any administrative rule or Secretary of State rulemaking. That once we put this stuff into law, you can't change it. I don't care if we say that you can create rules to implement it. Those rules have to operate within existing law. That's what should have always been happening. But that hasn't been happening. They've been taking that little piece of non-delegation to mean that they can change all kinds of election law, the ballot numbering laws. There's a lot of different examples of them. Electronic devices inside the polling locations. They say, no, don't worry about that. They can have whatever. They're authorizing all kinds of weird stuff. Apparently they can certify machines without hash value, hash validation. You know what I mean? The hash code that you pull from each program so that you know exactly which version of that election software is loaded onto a given server, for example. Apparently the Secretary of State can just waive hash verification and certify a program that's unable to be confirmed as to which even value. We don't even know what program that is. We can't tell. So we wouldn't ever know if it's been modified. Anyways, I'm about to go off. Hyder, you know, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, Hyder, but it's not looking good. It's looking like the Secretary of State has taken that little piece of non-delegation as meaning that the Director of Elections is the all-powerful genie of Texas elections, regardless of what the law says. What's the point? I wonder, what is the point of writing election laws? Hyder, if you and the Secretary of State don't have to follow them. Y'all can just make it up. Y'all can just wing it as you go. What's the point of the law, Hyder? And also, what other area of law are we thoroughly deferring to the Secretary of State in order to understand? That's the question I posed to the sheriffs. I said, look, if I called you and said that I have evidence and witness testimony about a murder that occurred, would you tell me just to email it to you and that you would forward it to the Secretary of State to see if you should look into it? No, you wouldn't do that with any. There might be other areas of law where you're going to ask somebody for help and for guidance on it. But when we bring you evidence of a violation of the law, say, look, here it is. The sheriffs, we don't necessarily want them deferring totally to the Secretary of State. Of course, they're going to need the Secretary of State's statement and input. But if the Secretary of State is authorizing the violation of state law, and there's a due penalty associated with the violation of that state law, then the sheriff needs to be willing to issue a warrant for the detainment of the Director of Elections in the Secretary of State's office. We need a thorough investigation. Why is the Secretary of State waiving laws like the ballot numbering law in favor of programs that are offered by these voting system manufacturers, these blank ballots that the counties can reuse? They're not supposed to be reusing any of those ballots that are ordered for those elections. Every single record, including all of the ballots ordered, the entire range of ballots ordered for that election, need to be preserved for 22 months. There's no reusing ballots that are ordered for elections. That's an expense the county is writing off. You take that to the county, and the county can work on the budget for that, but those ballots are being preserved for 22 months, even if they haven't been used. That's how we know you're not screwing around with things. That's how we know everything's in order. Okay, so how is the Secretary of State choosing which laws to address and amend? How did the Secretary of State land on the ballot numbering law to waive? Is that because ES&S and HART brought to the Secretary of State a version of their voting system software that offered blank ballots that would save the county's money and could be reused from election to election if there was any left over? I want all the communications between all the voting vendors, all the voting machine vendors, and Keith Ingram for the last, I'm saying 15 years. All of it. Emails, LinkedIn messages, text messages, next door, whispers, all of it. Everything that's documented. Phone calls, presentations, meetings, proposals, everything. I want all of that, and I've been asking specifically for communications between Keith Ingram and Hyder Garcia. Do you know what the Secretary of State's office keeps doing? They have several times, and how can I be more clear? I want every piece of communication between Hyder Garcia and Keith Ingram from this date until this date. All emails, text messages that you have on file. I want everything. You know how many times they sent me a request for clarification? Several. Request for clarification. Like what subject? Help us clarify. What subject are you looking for? I'm like, elections. What else are they talking about? I was like, honestly, what else would they be talking about? Golf? Send me all their messages about golf too. All of it. When I say all of it, all of it. If they were talking about their favorite restaurant, send me that. All of it. I want all communications from this point, from this period in time, this date until this date. It was like 3 years that I requested their communications. But you're going to want to go further back between your Secretary of State and your voting machine vendors to see what they're doing, because these secretaries of state and these voting machine vendors and the National Association of Secretaries of State, all these other NGOs and these weird lobbyists they're convincing themselves that they don't have to follow state law as it's written. Whatever they have the authority to immediately go in there and implement, even if they only technically have that authority, they're going and doing it, including this weird thing. Also, another example is the countywide polling, where you're voting all across county. You don't have to vote in your voting precinct anymore. That's happening nationwide. And that's not good for the auditability of our elections. It's really not. So getting testimony about all this stuff can be a little bit hard. If y'all have any topics that you guys want to cover, I just want to go over some of this stuff. We've got the convention coming up. This is how we are taking back the Republican Party of Texas in order to take back the whole state. We have some libertarians attempting to infiltrate, libertarians or Democrats, whatever, attempting to infiltrate the party. They're really funny, but the worst part about them is that they're pushing ranked choice voting. They're trying to like establish ranked choice voting as acceptable in the Republican Party. That's happening right now. So there are some claims of late night in the Tarrant County primary of a late night ballot drop, like 3 or 4 a.m. ballot drop. I've been hearing this going around. People are mentioning it. I've not been provided with any like hard evidence of it yet, but I called around to ask about it, and someone that I spoke with that works at the elections has vehemently denied there were no late night ballot drops, nothing after everybody was sent home. And that's my experience. I've never been sent home before all of the locations had arrived with all of their ballots. I've never experienced that before. My experience is you stay there until the very end and you get the final printout. So I don't know what this was about. Some people are saying they got sent home early, and then after that, more ballots came in. So I'm still looking into that. But the people that worked there, like the people that kind of would say that there's nothing going wrong, say there's nothing like that happened. There were no late night ballot drops. None of the ballots got in after 3 or whatever. So I'm still looking into that. If you hear things like that, just try to see if you can get more information, see if they have any actual evidence. I am looking to see if there's any footage of that, because there should be footage of that. But that's all we really have to say about that. One side of the story says there were late night ballot drops and the totals changed at like 3:30 in the morning. The other side said there were no late night ballot drops. That was an electronic update because it took us a long time to plug all of the thumb drives in and get everything loaded. Last thumb drive I loaded in around 3, and I plugged it in, turned all the lights off. There were a bunch of them still loading up. I signed off on it, locked all the doors, and left. And by 3:30, when I got home, all those totals were reported, and those were the final totals. So they might have seen a little bit of a change in the totals because they were still being reported at 3 in the morning. That's one of the sides of the story. I don't know. You want to accept that or not? But that's one of the sides of the story. There's a lot of data that we need in order to really take back the election. A lot of it is kind of basic, but the party has a big part in this. We need to establish. We had a really good suggestion last night on our stream that we need a resolution to have a paper ballot backup plan. Like if we get hit by an EMP, Russia, the Democrats are all freaking out about Russia, hacking our elections. They've been on and off on that train for a while. Okay, well, what if they hit us with an EMP and all of our machines go down? What are we gonna delay the elections like Zelensky did? No. So we need a paper ballot backup plan. So Subpack Vet on Pilled had that really good suggestion the other night. So I'm going to work on that, seeing how many people I can get involved in designing that type of resolution and shooting it way up to the top, way up to the people at high places, so we can try to get it seen by the SREC people, get it passed through all the resolutions and everything preceding the convention. Good resolution. We need a paper ballot backup plan. And I think that's a resolution that a lot of the party can get behind. I think it's reasonable. How are we going to do this if we're all on our own and we don't have these machines anymore? We'll still use the machines. Like I said, we can bind the machines to the law as well. You know what I mean? So basically we need a lot of information in order to get this stuff going. So we need basically all the contracts between the county and your party. We need to examine what your county Republican Party or Democrat or Libertarian Party, whatever, has been contracting with your county to do as far for the elections, especially the primary elections, because this is where the party can actually take a little bit more control. Okay, is in the primaries. This is where you can start to redesign the paper ballot process. We do have Chapter 65 that's already in existence, and it's good. But I think it could be modernized, right? So in the party, in the executive committees in your counties, this is where you start to do it. All of you precinct chairs, y'all start to draft the resolutions as to how you would maybe modernize Chapter 65 for an emergency paper ballot backup plan. Okay. Phrase it like that. Subpac Vet had a really good idea. You phrase it like a backup plan. Maybe that'll be a lot easier for people to get behind, as opposed to presenting it as like, this is something we need to switch to right away. This will be a backup plan. Let's practice our backup plan. Okay. I think that was a really good idea, and we're going to try to get that through. Anyways, y'all like it? Y'all have some ideas for resolutions? Feel free to submit them. There's something that, like, resolutions are basically just language that you want on the party platform. So I want election security language on the party platform. So that's what we're working on. That's what a lot of us are working on. And you saw Dr. Dana Meyer's 17 resolution points for election integrity. We read through those yesterday, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good. All right. So once we kind of gain control over the primaries, then we can move on to designing statewide elections. We need to gain control of the primary elections, which we're just about there. Unfortunately, this shit takes time. So by next primaries, we should be looking good. We should have a lot more control over the primaries, but it has taken us quite a while in order to flex these rights. That's just the nature of things sometimes. But we're getting there. We're making really good strides. We're getting people in that are running on these things, that are running on saying, yeah, we will clean up the elections. Once we get control of the primaries, we have our candidates in there, then we can start designing statewide elections by drafting laws, okay, that look like what we want, what our candidates experienced with the grassroots in our party primaries and all of that stuff, our convention process, all of that. We can start putting all of our party language into law. That's the goal. That's the goal, right? So I don't even care if that upsets the Democrats. That's the goal. So we're going to win, and we're going to put our party language into law. Part of that party language, will be securing the elections. That's what we're focusing on. There's a lot of other things. You can get party language in there related to the border, related to children's rights, families' rights, parental rights, ad valorem property taxes, stuff like that. You can do all kinds of language. There's a whole movement for axe the tax. They want to get rid of property taxes. There's whole movements for different things, parental rights, all that stuff. We just focus on elections right now. We think that it's literally the most important thing. Good luck getting any of that other stuff done if you don't have control and understand thoroughly your elections so that you can trust them and then move forward. You know what I mean? We need, in order to actually change the law, it's not so simple as we just change the party platform and then we can change it into law. We do need Democrat support too. We do need bipartisan support. The way that you get bipartisan support is not arguing ideals and saying, well, this is what the party wants. No, you will get Democrat support by making good, logical arguments that they cannot refute. There are some good people in the Democrat Party that will vote in favor of election security if we give them a reason. You know that there's people in the Democrat Party that are so disappointed in Joe Biden, so disappointed in Kamala Harris. You know that. A lot of our friends voted for Bernie. They didn't vote for Hillary. They didn't vote for Joe. They're Bernie bros, the last two primaries. You think they feel dumb yet? I know they do. I'm not trying to totally ridicule them or anything, but if we give these people a reason to side with us on something, they will. But they still want to retain their independence from us. They don't want to say, oh, you made me a Republican, but they'll vote with us. So that's what we need even more data for. Okay. That's when we need our poll watchers to go out and start documenting what's happening on the ground. We'll be doing poll watcher trainings soon. Just letting you guys know some basics that we want our poll watchers to track and document. Once you track those things, you write all those things down, you start to work through some of the things that we have you look through. You'll understand why we want you to track certain things. And you might have your own hunches, all of that stuff, and that's great. And you feel free to pursue any hunches that you have, definitely. But with our training, we have very specific things that we want documented because we're trying to prove something to the legislature. We're trying to prove to them how prevalent certain issues are. So that's why we have you document certain things. Anyways, but you can always, go on your own hunches. And who knows? Sometimes people find their own things. Some of our best poll watchers I've just given them, the minimal training. They've gone and found some crazy things off of hunches, and then they've been proven true. So we got some smart people out there. Y'all are all a lot smarter than anyone's probably going to give you credit for, especially because, the media likes to mock Americans for not being very smart. Yeah, well, we're not that stupid either. So our training has improved over time. So in my opinion, I've tried to make it as simple as possible from the beginning. I think I've succeeded in making it even simpler, but I do have a lot of context. I will make the context available separately if you want that. And it'll be there available, but just the basic poll watcher training, I've really simplified it. This time it's going to be go in there, do this, and this. You can go and we can come and go as you please, basically, from location to location, or you can stick in one location all day. It's fine. 1 or 2 locations all day. It's no problem. We have a really easy system. So we have so much ground to cover with election security. There's, as you guys know, we need people at all ends of the spectrum. We have the voter rolls to clean up. Okay, we've got registration to. You have to, if you want to clean up the voter rolls, you're going to want to go ahead and immediately tighten down on that registration process. Okay. When people give you their addresses, Google it and see, is that a residential address, or is this a warehouse, or is this the county courthouse? Why are they trying to register at the county courthouse? I think that needs to go into your file. And I don't think, we really need to look at it, because the law says only lawful in-county residential addresses can be used for registration. That means that the people who are doing the registering should be making sure that those are lawful in-county residential addresses, right? So it should not be a problem for you guys to Google that, to be confirming that. How else are you going to, what easier way do you have to confirm whether something is a lawful in-county residential address than Googling it? So Google it, especially in Texas, because I don't care. They're going to train you not to look into it. They're going to train you not to question their addresses. Just get them registered no matter what. Okay, I know they're going to train you to do that. But the law says that it does need to be a residential address. These people are diluting votes of actual tax-paying citizens of all races, of all incomes, of all backgrounds, of all, whatever, genders, whatever. They are diluting the votes of the people if they're registering unlawfully. And then if they're able to cast a ballot. The focus has to be on prevention, because once an unlawful ballot is cast, you cannot fish it back out. It's too late. The damage is done. If you're voting according to the law, if they're following the law and voting by secret ballot, you're not going to be able to pull that back out. So the focus must be on prevention. Okay. That means those voter rolls better be squeaky clean. Okay. And you VDRs out there in Texas, don't just be adding people to the roll willy-nilly. Their addresses need to be lawful in-county residential addresses. No excuse. No excuse. I understand you're going to be trained. There's no excuse. Who trained you? Okay. And then let's talk to your trainer. Who trained the trainer? I'm waiting for the trainer, for everybody to point their finger all the way back upstream to the Secretary of State's office, who issued the training saying, don't worry if they're actually in a residential address. Again, another law that the Secretary of State has chosen to waive. I do not think that those little bits of non-delegation, which are going to be addressed, don't think that just because I'm saying this doesn't give you the authority, that I'm not going to address that. We're going to clean that up. But it does not give you the authority, the Secretary of State, the authority. You, Christina Atkins, you, Keith Ingram, y'all don't have the authority to amend any outside election code. It's wild that you think you do. It's wild that anybody thinks that you have that authority. So, anyways, basically, we need witness testimony in order to take these issues to the legislature and say these are real things that are actually happening. We need the communications between you guys. So say you have a hunch and you follow something, you really catch on to something. like some weird thing that's happening in your county elections, we need you to follow through, try to get as much communication about that back and forth from all the people that are in charge of your county elections. That way we can document the full story. And I guarantee you almost every single time, if there's an issue with an administrative thing, or it's most of the issues get pointed back to the Secretary of State. That's what we find. That's not my opinion. We have that documented, that they are authorizing a lot of these things that we're taking issue with, that we're saying that's not legal. It's technically legal because the Secretary of State just said it is. Just like the EMS Central server is certified because the Secretary of State said it is, despite it not being able to be validated via hash. So the administrative code is a little bit of a problem, even though it's just supposed to be an advisory code. It's kind of being taken as gospel. That's a problem. We need to document that. We have to show the legislature that that's what's happening, that they're writing these administrative codes and the effect of them. It's effectively, it's resulting in the violation of state law. The legislature, they'll fix that if they can understand that, but they don't even know what's going on because they're not designing the election laws. They defer to the SOS. So we need to show them, okay, and this is the only way that we're actually going to get a lot of momentum with our legislation. But if we can show them, the Democrats will probably vote in favor of this, the good ones anyways, not those sold out ones, but the Democrats that also believe in election security will appreciate that we have witness testimony. This is not just a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists. When I say witness testimony, I'm talking about including the sheriffs saying, look, we took this to the DA, but the DA didn't think that it was strong enough case because the Secretary of State authorized it. We have the sheriffs saying that on our side. We're good, okay? We're good. But how are the sheriffs going to say that? They are so busy investigating murders, human trafficking, drug, all of this stuff, okay? We, the people, like you and me, need to document this stuff. So we need to go. I need you to come to my trainings, Dr. Presley's trainings. We'll announce them soon. We've been so busy. We haven't even been able to do anything. And I think we won't have to be able to do a training until after the state convention. So it'll be in the summertime, maybe late summertime. I'll be able to do another one. If you get invited to a training by Dr. Presley, I urge you to go to that. We need to figure out what's going on. The best way to do that is to get in there and start documenting specific things, okay? And it takes patience, guys. It takes sometimes getting through a few election cycles. You have to document things that are happening every election cycle, okay? It's frustrating. Some people don't have the gumption for it. But this is what we have to do. So data is really hard to come by. You have to physically go in there and get it. You want to know how many votes you got at that location, a certain candidate got at a certain location, you have to physically go into that location and look. You want to know how many people voted in that location at the end of election day or at the end of any given early voting day, you got to go in there and look. If you're an appointed poll watcher, you have the authority to do that. You can just walk in there, walk up and look at the machines. Yes, you do. You can walk up and look right at the machines. You can write things down off the machines. You just can't watch anybody casting their ballot. You need to give the voter their privacy. Can't film anything while people are casting their ballots. You're not supposed to. And I would tell you do not. Because the county's experienced a couple of times. I don't think they're going to keep playing around with that, okay? But when we are trying to get them to enforce the law, so we need to also be adhering to the law. The law says don't be filming in there while people are casting their ballots. Simple things like that. Your job as a watcher is actually really simple, but you do have a lot of authority. But we make it simple, so after you take our training, Dr. Presley's training, you shouldn't have any issues. Like it shouldn't be confrontational. Your experience as a watcher. So anybody that's interested in doing it, don't worry about that. You really won't have any problems at all because most of the issues are at the administrative level, but you very well may see something very strange happening. That's why we need as many watchers as we can, because we never know. You never know what weird little things are happening. Okay, we just can't be everywhere at once, right? So I say most of the issues are with the administrative thing, because with the administration of elections, the process, because I feel as though the process facilitates the potential for fraud to occur and go undetected, right? So at this point, the only way we'll know excuse me, the only way we'll know if people are switching ballots out is if we have watchers like at every location. You know what I mean? That's the only way we'll actually know currently, because there are so many loopholes set in place, in my opinion, that fraud could easily occur without detection. So highly recommend Dr. Presley's trainings, her poll watcher trainings. She's very good, very thorough. We will do a training again soon. If you're in Dallas County, if you would like to help out, with some of the Republican Party runoffs or any of the recounts, just contact the Republican Party and see if they'll help you out. I would contact a precinct chair and see, because the precinct chairs are a lot more helpful than the current administration, which is on its way out. We got Jennifer's out. Colonel Allen West is in. Very happy for Dallas County GOP for that. Excellent work. Total credit to the precinct chairs. Total credit to you guys. The Dallas County precinct chairs are so badass. They really knocked this out. Them and Colonel West. Very happy for Dallas County. It's looking great. Excellent work. If you are in Tarrant County, we do have some recounts going, and we have like 9 runoffs. So if you want to observe one of the runoffs, if you want to work one of the runoffs, okay, you can reach out to me, and I'm going to give you the emails of somebody to call, because I don't work the elections, because I often will appoint watchers myself. I'll pop up a little SPAC so that I can appoint some watchers. If there's a measure on the ballot, sometimes the measures I don't care about. Sometimes I care about the measure, so I'll do an SPAC. But otherwise, we can get you with a candidate that's in the runoff. We can all appoint you, but I can't work the elections for that reason. But we need a lot of people working the elections. Everyone working the elections, you're helping secure them too. Because a lot of the time, if the Republicans don't staff their own elections, the county is staffing with like temporary workers. And who do you think are sending those temporary workers? Democrats. Okay. You just have to logically assume that. You have to. It's not safe to, rest on your laurels. You know what I mean? Did I use that phrase right? Tarrant County has recounts and runoffs. Dallas County has recounts. I don't remember if Dallas County actually has any runoffs. I need to go and double check. But get involved with the Dallas County. They are looking so good. Chairman Allen West is going to really do some really good things. So please step up, fill all the precinct chair positions in Dallas County. Tarrant County, we're looking real good. Hey, also, if you're in Tarrant County and you've got some resolutions, you want to work on some of this strategy for the state convention, feel free to reach out to me at takingtxback@gmail.com, because I'm meeting with some people. They've got a lot of experience in the state convention process, helped me out a lot in the last convention process. Okay. And if you're in Tarrant County, you're close by, you're welcome to come to some of our collaborative meetings. And we need as many people as we can, really, because we need to stack the mic. Last convention, they kept calling the question. They do this weird little thing where as soon as you get what you want up on the floor, if you've got a rhino in there, they'll go and immediately make certain moves that make it impossible to discuss. And it's all this Robert's Rules of Order, all this stuff. It's kind of complicated, but it doesn't have to be super difficult, especially if we have a lot of people involved. We can say, okay, your job is just to stand there and do this. Your job is to read this part off when you get to the mic. Simple stuff like that. And it's actually pretty fun once you're doing it. It's kind of fun because it's like a collective, collaborative sort of effort. It's cool. And we have to get ready for that for the convention, which is coming up at the end of May. So if you're in Tarrant County and you're a state delegate, okay, and you want to help us out, you got resolutions or whatever, takingtxback@gmail.com. Just email me, say, hey, invite me to your convention meetings, and I'll do that. So, but thank you guys so much for being here. I just wanted to kind of go over some of the things. I'm working on a lot of other stuff. Some of it I can't really talk about. I'm never, ever announcing again the name of any groups that I work with, because y'all, some of my people that watch my stuff are not on my side about things, and y'all are just nasty. Y'all are just mean. So I'm working with some really great people, and we've got some cool things going. I think that the only thing that I'll do is I'll occasionally share things that I think you guys might be interested in. But for the most part, the only things I'll be announcing are what we're working on, okay? And my new reports. I've got a couple of reports coming out. You saw a couple of short reports about the Dallas GOP canvassing and the EMS certification issue in Dallas, working on an update to that EMS certification report to do a full report, probably just be like 2 pages. But there'll be a lot more info in it. I've heard nothing from Hyder, so I might reach out and see if I can get a statement from Hyder about that whole thing and see if there's anything that anybody's missing, right? Any information that we might need to know before, we finish our final report on it. Though I'm sure Hyder would find it hilarious if we issued a slightly inaccurate report. But I'm giving him every opportunity to correct me. He has my number. He has my email. He is subbed to all of my channels, so it's okay. You can reach out. You can say what's up. Otherwise, I'll let you know what I hear whenever I get a hold of him, and just kind of ask him some basic things, make sure I'm on the same page as him. Because basically, if that EMS software can't be validated via hash, then it can't be lawfully certified, even if the Secretary of State says that it is. You know what I mean? So, Subpackbet, thank you so much for the cookie. That's okay, dude. Subpackbet says, sorry, I got mod duty right now. No problem. Yeah, catch the rerun. This was a kind of, not a super eventful one. I wanted to talk about some basic things because there's a lot of rumors going around, Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm just trying to make sure that people don't get too lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? So there's all this stuff going on in Dallas County. There's all this stuff going on in Tarrant County. Tarrant County, we have 2 Marines running our elections right now. So I feel pretty good about that. But, they're still subject to the Secretary of State's whim, I guess, their suspect interpretation of the law. So it's still a little bit difficult getting through to them. But we have some really good people running Tarrant County GOP, really nice county judge, excellent Sheriff Wayburn. Our DA, I don't know what he's doing, but we'll find out. He seems all right. Our new county chairman, Beau French, is great. Okay. We've got some good things going on. Dallas County has a new GOP chair, Alan West, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Excellent news for Dallas County. Okay. Looking really good. I don't want people to get discouraged because it's hard for me to report everything that I'm doing, and some things I'm just not going to say. But ideally, the country will see the results of what we're working on. It just takes forever. Sometimes, man, it's like pulling teeth getting data sometimes. You know what I mean? Getting information, coordinating with people. You know what I mean? It is like pulling teeth. But I love what I do, and I'm blessed, and I want to thank everybody for being here, for watching. I want to thank everybody for all of the help that they've given, moral support, financial support, all of that stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we've got the convention coming up. We've got a lot of meetings coming up where we're going to go over our strategy and our resolutions that we're going to present. We're going to try to force them through, not force, but we're going to try to push them through the resolutions committee so we can get them on the floor. More than just elections will be discussed in these convention meetings. I'm bringing elections resolutions. Other people also might bring elections resolutions. I hope they do. And we already passed some resolutions out of our SD conventions, but we are still working on because you can still amend the language to these resolutions. You can, once you get down there, we're working on all of that, making sure we agree on any amendments that might be proposed to the resolutions that got passed out of our SD conventions, because they are going to consolidate some of them. Some of them might be set aside if they're too similar to what's on the party platform. So there's just a lot of work going into it. If y'all want to learn, just email me, takingtxback@gmail.com. Y'all can attend the meetings where I go to learn. We need more people. We need a lot more people. Okay. So on that note, what do y'all think about that Beyonce song? That's not country, is it? Y'all heard that new Beyonce song? I have it stuck in my head. Is that country? It's like almost good. I want to like it, but I just don't. I want to like it, but I don't. So H-O says just trying to learn as much, no time to hate on. I know, right? I don't know how people find the time, honestly. I don't know how people find the time to hate on literally everything. They don't like anything that I do. They don't like anything that I wear. They don't like how I say anything. I don't know. It's whatever. Maybe my personality is unique. Okay. But we've got a lot of stuff documented, and we have a lot of good techniques to continue to document things. So, I was hoping to have some of the resolutions ready so that I could read through some of them, but they still haven't all been sent over to me because I want to read several from I want to read basically ours in Tarrant County, Dallas, Harris, Travis, Williamson, a lot of the big counties. I want to see where their elections resolutions are at. How successful were they? Because some of them I think did really well. So we'll see. And as soon as I get those, I'm going to go live again. So I was hoping to have them already. That's why I set this live up. But I do not have them. I want to give a shout out to, again, the precinct chairs of Dallas County and the precinct chairs of Tarrant County. They've been working really, really hard on the primary, getting a lot of people up to speed. I think that the executive committee, the precinct chairs in Dallas and Tarrant County are who are going to save Texas, who are going to preserve Texas. I think Dallas County is about to be flipped. That's how confident and satisfied I am with the work of their executive committee. They got in there and cleaned house. All right. So now is a great time to join Tarrant County Executive Committee as a precinct chair, or Dallas County Executive Committee as a precinct chair. Great time for the Republican Party. The Democrats, I don't know what they're doing, but the Republican Party is looking so good. You're going to have a great time with Colonel Allen West over in Dallas County. So get over there and join. And if any of you are working the recount, I will see you guys there. Let's see. So thank you guys for being here. And the next time you see me, we're going to be going over something very specific. Did I have something else? I did have a little video. I was going to do a real quick recap of kind of what is happening in Texas related to Ken Paxton. Just a little recap of what they did in the House. Okay. So don't forget about these details when you hear all this other nasty stuff about Ken Paxton. Okay. Nobody's perfect. I'm not saying Ken Paxton's a perfect angel, but that's our attorney general. That's our boy. We picked him. Okay. I want to, I'm going to add this and I'm going to play this and then I'm going to close out. Okay, guys. But I don't want you guys to be discouraged. There's a lot going on. There's a lot you guys can help with. We'll be doing some trainings and a lot of meetings. Right now, we're focused on the convention, though. So basically, everything is about the convention process that we're doing for the next 2 months. Right? Wait, March, April, May. Because it's at the end of May our convention is. So after that, we'll be able to focus on all of the actual poll watcher trainings. So looking like June, July, we'll be able to start doing like the poll watcher trainings for the general election. But right now, we're hyper-focused on resolutions, SREC, and the state convention. This is because we're modifying the party platform right now. We want to make sure every single candidate that runs on our ballot is adhering to our party platform. And that means we write the party platform. If we want it to say what we say, we write it. Resolutions. Okay. Trying to get you guys to put 2 and 2 together. You don't need to become a precinct chair to be a delegate at the state convention. But you may still have time to get on the list of delegates. Okay. That's a big confusion. People think, oh, I'm not a precinct chair, so I can't be a delegate. You do not have to be a precinct chair to be a delegate. Okay. So contact your Republican Party. Give them your address, or you can go to my website, takingbacktexas.org. One time I said .com. I can't. TakingBackTexas.org. Go to the little drop-down menu. Go to important links. Scroll down. Click on who represents me. Type in your address. It's not going to pull up your voter info, but it's going to tell you based on the map your thing. Look in your congressional district. This is what you're going to be split into for the state convention, your CD, congressional district. Then call your county's Republican Party and say, hello, I'm interested in being added as a delegate to for the state convention for this congressional district, CD, whatever. If they have room, you might still be able to get on. If their delegate seats are full, because everyone's allotted a certain amount of delegates. This is representational, you know. So, but if they have room, you might be able to get on. So try that, okay? All those things. Rewind this for all those instructions. And here you go, and enjoy this. And if you have any other questions, I don't know, you can email me, or I will see you guys later whenever I get those resolutions sent to me. I expected them today. So I double expect them within the next couple of days. And if I get them within the next few hours, I'll come back live again and we'll read them. All right? I don't care. I'm not above doing 2 streams in one day if I feel like it, unannounced. So thank all of you guys for being here. Thank you for all of your donations. I really appreciate that. And again, this is so random, but I can't get that stupid Beyonce country song out of my head. I just have to say, is that country? That's not country. But it's stuck in my head and it sounds country and I almost like it. But anyways, I don't know why I'm like, that's been bugging me and I've been wanting to say that for a while to somebody. I was like, who do I tell that that's not country? All right. Y'all have a good day. I might see y'all later, or I might see you in a couple of days. There was no public debate like for the actual House. Total disenfranchisement of pretty much most of the people in Texas.
Everybody.
Yeah. In both the 1917 and the 1975 impeachments, the attorney was allowed to question the speaker on this stuff. Not in Paxton's impeachment. He was not allowed. He was there. He had questions. He was not allowed to question. That's what I was informed of. House.texas.gov. Right up here in this top thing is the committees. Click on that. Thank you to Representative John Smithy, because he got the entire thing transcribed. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have any actual record of what they said in this short impeachment hearing. So now it was the General Investigating Committee that was doing all the talking. So when you go to committees, scroll down. Okay, so you're hit committees, and this is what it looks like, House committees. Scroll down, they're alphabetical. General Investigating, you'll see that right here. Now, these are the fools on the General Investigating Committee. Ann Johnson, Charlie Guerin, Rhino, and Shill. Andrew Murr, he thinks he's Wyatt Earp, but he's actually a dork. All right, click right here, transcript in R.E. Paxton evidence hearing. Can y'all see this? It's over here on the right side under quick links. Ann Johnson.
Yep.
This is the vice chair of the General Investigations Committee. And this is her website. She's the vice chair of the committee that pushed the Paxton impeachment through the House so unlawfully. And yes, those are men in wigs and women with psychological problems. Those are that's the trans flag. I think I'm not sure if that's the trans flag or the MAP flag. I don't know.
Mr. Smithy, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, has the House adopted any specific rules of process or procedure related to the conduct of an impeachment proceeding?
Mr. Smithy, could you be a bit more specific in your inquiry?
Well, in terms of calling witnesses or being able to speak for or against the motion, is there any specific rule, or has the House adopted any specific rule that would set the ground rules for that particular proceeding? And the reason I ask, Mr. Speaker, is because in my almost 40 years here, this is an unprecedented procedure. I've certainly had no experience with it. It's been largely unprecedented in the history of the Texas House to conduct impeachment proceedings, only a handful of instances. And I'm just wondering if there is any precedent or specific procedure for the conduct of these proceedings.
Mr. Smithy, there is a legislative and congressional precedent
Okay.
governing the consideration of articles of impeachment before the Texas House.
My understanding of Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your inquiry.
My understanding of congressional precedent is that the Congress adopts rules each time it conducts an impeachment inquiry. And so my question would be, will this House have an opportunity to approve or consider specific rules of procedure and process governing this particular matter?
Mr. Smithy, those are questions for the parliamentarian.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Those are questions directed best to the parliamentarian as
Okay,
to
but
specific procedures.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, it seems that this is a statewide office holder affected here. It seems this proceeding affects every person in the state of Texas. So I'm not just asking for myself. I'm basically asking for everyone in the state of Texas as to whether or not there will be any specific procedure in place for the conduct of these proceedings.
At this point in time, you should come down front and visit with the parliamentarians.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your inquiry.
Could the chair advise the House how much notice the House will have prior to consideration of the resolution as to when it will be considered?
That question is best directed towards Mr. Murr.
Okay, thank you.
May it please the court. Here we are in the Senate chamber in the most historic trial that's been had in this state in the last 100 years on this evidence. There is shame here, and the shame sits right there that they would bring this case in this chamber with no evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And I assure you, I'm not going to take 30 minutes. But let me tell you, first of all, I'm not here today to tell you that General Paxton should not be impeached. That's not why I'm here. Bottom line is, I don't know whether he should or not because I don't have the evidence before me to make that determination. All I'm telling you is this House cannot legitimately and in good faith and under the rule of law impeach General Paxton today on the record that it has before it. I'm not here to defend Ken Paxton. That's not my job. I'll leave that to someone else. But I'm here to defend two things that are precious to me. One is the rule of law, and the other is the integrity of the Texas House of Representatives, of which I've given a good part, the best part of my adult life. What we're doing here today is very important. You've heard that. It's a very sober and somber experience and process, and it should be. And there's three reasons for that. You've heard, and I've heard conversation on the floor from members, and we've heard a bit of this today. This is only like a grand jury. We don't need to adjudicate guilt or innocence, and that's true. But this House, historically, and with its president, has always applied a higher standard to these proceedings than it has to a typical grand jury. The House has always been concerned about due process and constitutional rights, and above all, the fairness that goes with a process such as this. And there are three reasons for that. Three very, in my opinion, very compelling reasons. The first is that our consequence, that our actions today have an immediate consequence. If we vote to impeach today, as soon as we do that, then General Paxton will be automatically relieved of his duties. He will no longer function as Attorney General of the state of Texas. It's what I call the hang 'em now and judge 'em later policy. The consequences of our impeachment is that he will be removed from the responsibilities of his office, even though his guilt or innocence has not yet been adjudicated. The second reason that the House has always insisted on a complete record, which we have no record before us, no record, no report before us. But the second reason is it is our responsibility to provide a record upon which the Senate can make its adjudication of guilt or innocence. Yes, they will have a trial there, but the basis for that trial is the record that we prepare here in the House, and there is no record to send to the Senate. The third reason, and to me this is extremely important, and that is just as we should be but are not looking at precedents of the Texas House, future legislatures should and probably will be looking at this precedent. We do not need to be relaxing the due process and the fairness concerns. When we go home, these are important. When we go home, we'll have to defend, each one of us as members will have to defend not only the final result that we reach today and the way we vote, but we'll also have to defend the process by which this determination was made. And members of the House, to me, this process is indefensible. It's absolutely indefensible. Not to be critical of anyone, but when you look at the precedent precedent is so important. I recently argued a case in the Supreme Court of Texas, and our argument was that precedent matters. And as the court pointed out in both its majority and concurring opinions, it said that precedent is important for two reasons. One is because of predictability, and the other is stability. Stability and predictability. That's important in the law, and it's important in House and Senate procedure. Now, as we approach this today, we basically have two prior impeachment proceedings and one that began as an impeachment proceeding, actually two that began, that are instructive for us. The first one has been mentioned. It's the 1917 impeachment of Governor Ferguson. And in that, there are several things that are very instructive historically that occurred in that particular impeachment. First, the House has always adopted rules in advance and they have always authorized the investigation into the public official. That way it is done out in public. It is done with the antiseptic of sunlight. This was not done that way, but rules are adopted in advance. We received the small rules that we have less than a few hours ago. The rules were made up as we went in this process, and that's not the way it should be. One of the things that the rules have always required, since 1917, again in 1929 in the aborted Robinson Land Commissioner impeachment, and again in 1975 in the Carrillo impeachment, one thing that the legislature has always insisted on is that the proceedings be done in public, that the public have access, the public have knowledge. Now, I think it's ironic that we're conducting this hearing today, we're doing this determination today during a holiday weekend when most of our constituents are busy doing what you should be doing on Memorial Day weekend, and that's memorializing those who've given all for this country, or else they're spending time with their family. They're not concerned about this. It's like dumping information late on a Friday afternoon of a news cycle. We should be doing this in the open daylight. We should be doing it not with 48 hours notice. We actually had less than 24 hours notice that we were going to do this today. We should be doing this with full notice and full opportunity for the public to participate, not directly in the House chamber, but to watch and to attend if they choose to do that. And we shouldn't do it on a holiday weekend. We've always had the public involved throughout the process, in the hearings, the committee hearings, and all throughout the process. Another thing that they did in 1917 that they've done continuously since then, they have always said that the accused in this case General Paxton, had the right to be represented by counsel during the proceedings. There is no indication in the record that General Paxton was ever afforded that opportunity. Number three, since 1917 and all of the intervening impeachment proceedings since then, counsel for the accused has been permitted the opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses. And that never occurred because no witnesses were ever examined in this case. Not one witness was ever examined by the committee. Not one fact witness who knew anything about anything was examined in the committee. Do you know how it worked? They had these investigators, these kind of anonymous we know their names, we know a little bit about them. These investigators, they came and spoke to the committee. From the record that I've been able to uncover, and I confirmed this with Mr. Murr, they were not even required to sign witness affirmation statements before the committee. Now, we require witness affirmation statements when somebody testifies before on behalf of a local or an uncontested bill, but we didn't require it in this instance. And what you've heard and what's in this report is not one shred of evidence. You're all familiar with the term hearsay, but what you have in this case is triple hearsay in most cases. It is hearsay within hearsay within hearsay. No prosecutor would ever try to get a grand jury indictment based solely on hearsay within hearsay within hearsay. No jury would ever convict. No civil jury could ever award judgment or enter a verdict based on the evidence that's before this House today. And so that's another thing. There was no ability for counsel for Mr. Paxton to cross-examine. There was no opportunity for anyone to cross-examine. In 1917, the House determined that the impeachment proceeding would be conducted as a trial with all of the due process requirements in place normally given. Now, that's not the case with grand jury proceedings. But the House was convinced that it wanted to go the extra mile in providing fairness and notice. And so it was conducted as a trial. And one other thing that applies to every impeachment that has ever been done in the Texas House of Representatives has been that all evidence must meet the standard required under the Texas Rules of Evidence. And I will tell you, there is not one word, not one sentence in the testimony before you that would be admissible in any Texas court of law under the Texas Rules of Evidence. It is hearsay within hearsay within hearsay. Here's something else is troubling. In a court of law, some of you have testified. You are sworn under oath. You testify under oath that on your honor that you will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help your God, okay? And if you don't do that, and it is later found out, you are subject to charges for perjury. And because of that limitation, most people, not all people, but most people tell the truth when they're giving official testimony. It concerns me, and I hope it concerns you, that in this case, in this impeachment proceeding, not one witness was put under oath. Not the investigators who testified what person A testified that person B told them. Person A was never put under oath. Person B was never put under oath. No one was put under oath. And so you have all these things that amount to accusations, but not testimony and certainly not evidence. And that concerns me. It concerns me a lot because today it could be General Paxton, tomorrow it could be you, and the next day it could be me. Our fundamental rights of due process are so important to every one of us, and they're important to preserving the republic that we have. Now, one other thing, as I said, the testimony has always, in the Texas House, any testimony used to convict someone, to impeach someone, has always been under oath with penalty of perjury. And another thing that has always been done, and we're breaking precedent in that regard, is counsel for the accused has always been permitted to attend within the House chamber, the open chamber of the House, to represent the accused. Members of the House have always been given the opportunity, even though they will not serve on the committee, they have been given the opportunity to submit written questions to be asked of the witnesses. That never, ever occurred in this case. So in 1917, you had rules adopted in advance, so everybody knew what the rules were. You had the public involved in the proceedings. You had the accused with the right to be represented by counsel. You had the right to cross-examination. It was conducted like a trial. Evidence was admissible, and all testimony was given under oath. That was what due process and fairness looked like in the Texas House of Representatives in 1917. And in my opinion, that's what due process and fairness should still look like today, not only in the Texas House of Representatives, but everywhere. Let's talk a minute about the 1975 impeachment of proceeding involving Judge O.P. Carrillo. Two members of our House were present for that. Speaker Craddock and Representative Thompson were both present for that. The author, many of you know, it was Terry Canales Sr., who was, and I believe Mr. Bryant was present at that time too. But Terry Canales Sr. was the author of the impeachment resolution. But it's very instructive what happened in 1975, because at the beginning of the proceeding, Judge Carrillo was notified that there was an impeachment proceeding investigation pending. And the House Select Committee sent this notice directly to Judge Carrillo by telegram. They said, you are invited to be present in person or by an attorney. Any evidence you care to present bearing on the inquiry will be welcome. The principal function of this committee is to develop facts, and your assistance in this endeavor will be appreciated. And so the accused was told, if you've got any evidence, anything you want us to know, anything you want us that might be used to exculpate your guilt in this case, we want to see it, because we want to be fair and we want due process. And so that's what fairness, that's what due process looked like in the Texas House in 1975, and that's the way it should still look. We've learned from the record and from talking to some of the committee members that General Paxton was never notified of these proceedings. He was never invited, much less allowed, to provide any material, any evidence, or any testimony that might in any way be exculpatory toward his guilt. That is not fairness. That is not due process. That is not the way that things should be done. A couple of other words about the Carrillo impeachment proceeding. Their members then were allowed to submit questions. All members were involved, were allowed to submit questions to all of the witnesses. They actually had witnesses in that case. There were 32 witnesses, as a matter of fact. All witnesses who testified were testifying based on personal knowledge, not one in this case based on personal knowledge. And they testified under oath for approximately 70 hours of testimony before the House committee that considered impeachment in that situation. They accumulated 15 volumes of testimony. They had 170 documents in evidence. What we have is we don't have a report. We've always had a report. There's no report. There is a transcript, and it is 170 pages, somewhere in that range. It's thin. It's just 170 pages. Not one document. In that case, 170 documents were submitted as part of the report in evidence. In this case, although multiple documents are referred to as being highly incriminatory to General Paxton, are referred to in the report, not one of those documents has been provided to the House, and not one is attached to any report that's been provided to the House. And so you have that matter of due process. It's like in 1975, the House embarked on a slow and deliberative process. They invited the accused to attend and present any evidence that might bear on his innocence. And they gave the opportunity for cross-examination by the counsel for the accused. And that was what due process and fairness looked like in 1975 in the Texas House, and it's what it should look like here today. You know, members, I'm aware that there are certain members in this House, certain people in this chamber, who want to get rid of General Paxton for whatever reason in the worst possible way. And I'm here to tell you that what we are doing is absolutely the worst possible way. There's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. If you want to do this the right way, what we should do is vote no on the resolution today. If you want to, we can come back as a committee and do this the right way. And the right way would be to ask we have subpoena power. We can compel these witnesses who supposedly have factual knowledge, we can compel them to come in, testify under oath with opportunity for cross-examination. We can notify the Attorney General. We can subpoena documents. We can allow the Attorney General to appear and present any exculpatory material that he might have, and we can do it the right way. And the committee can do that after we have adjourned the session. We can be called back for a one-day hearing to consider a real record that gives us a sufficient basis. You've heard this compared to a grand jury proceeding, and in some ways it's like a grand jury proceeding, and in other ways it is not. But I can tell you this, that no grand jury can legitimately indict any individual, any potential criminal defendant without evidence. You can't indict without evidence, period. And what you're being asked to do today is to impeach without evidence. It is all rumor, it is all innuendo, it is all speculation, it is all things that we may speculate to be true, but we don't have what is defined or what qualifies as evidence in any court at law, not only in Texas, not only in the United States, but in most developed countries in the world. And so I would just say this, that if I'm ever going to be in part of any impeachment proceeding that actually results in the impeachment of an officer, I don't want it to look like a Saturday mob out for an afternoon lynching. I want it to look like a clear, deliberative, somber, and sober exercise in the quasi-judicial function that the Constitution gives us the right to engage in. Members, thank you so much for your attention today. I appreciate the time you've given me.
Members, the next item of business is consideration of a motion in writing governing debate on H.R. 2377. A copy of the motion has been placed on your desk. The following motion in writing, the clerk read the motion.
Motion in writing by Murr. Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the following to govern floor debate for H.R. 2377. Section 1, time limit on debate. Debate on the resolution shall not exceed 4 hours. Section 2, opening debate. The opening debate on the resolution shall not exceed 100 minutes and shall be evenly divided between the proponents and opponents of the resolution. B, the first 50 minutes of the opening debate period shall be allocated to the joint authors of the resolution, during which any points of order may be submitted in writing to the Speaker. The first 30 minutes of this period shall be reserved for opening statements without interruption